The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Max Radio. Open line through till 1, so the floor's yours. The lines are open. 66 13 68, telephone number. Email studio@maxradio.com or WhatsApp on 166 177. SMS 166 177. Just a quick word, if you're thinking of going to Government Central Office today on Bucks Road, access has been suspended, temporarily suspended, public access to Government Central Office. Apparently this is an operational issue, no cause for concern, but if you want any information, if you needed to urgently contact a service housed in the building, then call 685 685. But Government Central Office on Bucks Road is closed to the public at the moment. We'll let you know when it reopens. They apologise for any inconvenience caused and will restore access as soon as possible. So 685 685 if you need to get in. Tonight, by the way, an interesting agenda tonight with Phil Gorm. Some interesting bills making their way through Keys and Ledgecombe at the moment. The income tax bill, sanctions bill, vaping bill, employment bill. So you can hear that tonight. Phil Gorm, I think, will be talking to Dr. Allinson about the assisted dying bill, and Enterprise Minister Tim Johnston will saying basically that the plan to mothball work permit legislation is nothing to see. So just move along here. I don't know what you think about that. If you have any thoughts on suspending, freezing, whatever you want to call it, putting it into suspended animation, the work permit situation on the Isle of Man. And Oliver Cowan, the boss at the Southern Swimming Pool, sent me a note also to say if you want to go to the Southern Swimming Pool website and Facebook page, there is a survey about the Southern Swimming Pool. If it involves you, if you are interested about the Southern Swimming Pool, if you use it, there's a public survey, and please go to it. Please make sure you fill it out if it's something that you want. They're talking about preferred opening hours, feedback on the current service delivery, suggestion for improvement, what needs to happen for they need to align their services more with the needs and preferences of the public. Basically, they need to know what it is you want. It started today, and you go to southernswimmingpool.im or to their Facebook page. You have till the 15th of November. And, of course, if you don't put your opinion down, they'll never know what you were thinking. David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. A little bit of a miserable day for those people who are listening from far afield. But I was listening to Chris Thomas yesterday on Sunday Opinion. I don't know whether you listened to it yourself.
Yes, I did catch it, yes.
Yeah, and you know what I thought to myself? I was getting depressed. And it wasn't a bad day either. Why would anybody want to come to the Isle of Man to run a business or employ somebody or just enjoy living in the Isle of Man and experience what we have? I just thought he was negative. I know he's been sacked, and I just think, God, what's he want to do? All the revenge? If he's whinging all the time, why does he pack his toys in and pack in and go somewhere else?
Well, Phil Gorm likened it to a kind of broken marriage, a relationship breakdown.
Well, yeah, I think it was probably more than that. And I just want to throw in about the work permits as well. Now, I've been bounced off a dentist list. So I won't mention the dentist, but anyway, I'm one of the, whatever that is now, that can't get to see a dentist.
4,000.
4,000. So I'm the 4,001 now. So in my health, as I'm getting older, we need to see a doctor fairly quickly, don't we? I've been waiting 2 weeks. That's gone past now. And the fellow that came in and got an emergency appointment before me, And then if you want a dentist, unless you're in pain, and they always encourage you to see the dentist, make sure you get a hygiene check, because it can affect you. Bad teeth, things that are happening.
Well, literally, David, if you have, bluntly, if you have dental problems, if your teeth are rotting or you've got dental problems, you're literally swallowing poison. And certainly for anybody with a heart condition, it is not good news.
Yeah, well, I've definitely got a heart. I've not got a condition, so I'm probably all right on that. But I just wonder where there's nobody stepping up to the mark within government at the minute. Never mind the minister, maybe the chief minister needs to round off on some of these politicians who won't get into being part of Parliament and just sit outside and then what we used to call throwing stones and trying to see how many ripples there are.
Yeah.
But maybe I've got a different point of view, but that's my little synopsis of anybody listening. The Isle of Man across, or even further, it's a great place to live, great place to bring your kids up. And what a wonderful time we had at the weekend. Football, and there would have been hockey, all sorts of sport when you're enjoying your grandkids, enjoying themselves.
Okay, well, just tell me this, though. Let's go back to Chris Thomas. He had a whinge at the weekend. He told us everything that he thought was wrong. But on the other hand, and you've been in politics, if you go around with a Cheshire grin on your face all the time, a Cheshire cat grin, people will say, what are you smiling at then? I've got problems. Why aren't you taking those seriously?
And that's the issue. You look at all the things. Today I've even gone down to the roads, and it's all going to be about honking. So those people can, I can apologise for that. We're down the park there, down the stadium there. The road going around the park is an absolute nightmare. Up by the honking school there, on the left-hand side of the road. These issues, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself now, not as a local authority member there. These things need to be done. Why can, and this is the million-dollar question to everybody really, is how can we put scaffolding up, get a contractor involved to pull down the stables, and then it's all stopped now. So we're incurring thousands of pounds every week, don't we, with that scaffolding being up and job not completed.
It sends out, let's just be kind and say it sends out a contradictory message.
It does. And the other thing, finally from me, and I'll drop off too, going down the prom Sunday, going for shopping. I'm shopping at the Co-op now. That's a little plug. I'll tell you about that some other time. I go the promenade, and on the way back on the way down on the seaward side there, the little verge grass is. Why don't they cut it? Listen, I'm sure if I get my lawnmower down there, somebody can give me a hand. I'll cut it if they don't want to cut it. And did you look at all that seaweed?
Well,
never mind this.
That's amazing. I think they're finally getting round to doing the whole thing today. But, we did have visitors. We had all those chess grandmasters that were staying, I think, at the Empress Hotel. All those people. What must they think that we can't get rid of some seaweed? It's not like we've not had seaweed before. Surely there was some sort of plan for Douglas City Council to get on and get rid of the seaweed.
Yeah, and all they've got to do is when you employ somebody, their contract of employment, why is it always got to be Monday to Friday? Why can't we say Wednesday to Sunday? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what the services you need is you have a contract for it, don't you? Or employ somebody at different times of the day.
Okay, all right, thanks for that.
See you, boy.
Cheers now, 16 minutes past 12 on Manx Radio. The Mannin Line is with you through till 1. Yes, that bad smell in the Isle of Man's capital. A lot of seaweed and stones, but the seaweed's causing a stench, not a smell. There was a stench along Douglas Promenade. Some people say it's going to be taken back with the tide and the smell will go with it. We've asked Douglas City Council for a response. As yet, we haven't managed to get them on the telephone to say what it is they're doing with it and why it took so long for them to get to it. Peter's on now. Hi, Peter.
Oh, hello, Andy. It's Peter Murcott here. And first of all, I'm going to apologise because I know you don't like the subject, but I've got to say something more before the debate tomorrow. So my apologies for bringing it up.
No. no, please never apologise for this. It's just because I find this subject so personal and it carries such weight with people. I'm uncomfortable talking about it, Peter. So,
yeah,
but my discomfort is nothing. That's just a personal opinion. Go ahead, please.
Right. First point, I see that one of the arguments that keeps on being used by those who support the bill, who don't really know, they haven't read it probably, is the question about unbearable suffering. It needs to be understood for a start that is notable by its absence. That is not one of the things that you have to prove. Always, in previous times with other jurisdictions, when they've wanted to engineer this sort of legislation through, they've always played that card very hard about the unbearable suffering, which is understandable that one would impact on people and it would impact on everybody. But it's notable by its absence. And so what I'm saying is the bill has already, if it gets passed, it will have already moved several stages on from where the usual starting point is. Now, that's very worrying because that suggests that there's going to be further movement later on because we're not even at the usual starting point. So I repeat, there is nothing in the bill that requires a person making an application to prove unbearable suffering. It's simply a terminal illness. The second point is about this question of insurance. I've read the relevant clause, although it doesn't actually refer to insurance, it makes it quite clear that on the documentation that comes out at the end, it must, note the word, the documentation must state the cause of death as the terminal illness. Now if the person has died of suicide, which has been assisted, then the cause of death is not the terminal illness. The cause of death is the medicine, as it's called, that caused the death. That's the cause. And they have committed suicide. Now, if you're going to have a documentation that's in effect going to be false, I do not think that would exonerate someone who uses that documentation, because it may be legal to issue documentation that is not true. But when a person makes the claim, the claim would be for the fact that the person's died by a terminal illness when they would know full well that they hadn't. I would have thought that would leave them open to a charge of obtaining by deception. It wouldn't be a defence, I would submit, the fact that they didn't write the documentation. The offence would lie in the fact that they know that they are using something which is false to obtain a payout on an insurance policy which perhaps normally wouldn't pay out on suicide. Now, if you go a stage further, if, for example, the bill is amended so as to indemnify someone against such a charge, what would happen then, or might happen anyway, is that the Isle of Man now becomes regarded as a very suspicious place on life insurance, especially where the person has died of a terminal illness, because how does the insurer know which terminal illness was and which was really not a terminal illness? And the ramifications of that go further, because many people, when they're buying property, they have life insurance regarding their mortgage in case the other party dies. That could create all kinds of difficulties if, sadly, the other party dies of a terminal illness, does not avail himself of the bill. They may well find that they're going to have quite considerable difficulties in establishing the truth of what they're saying. And I don't think that they've even started to think of what a can of worms that they are opening when they have a provision whereby the registry, in effect, would be issuing false documentation. And as I said, I've said all along that actually law should never do that sort of thing, because the law is about truth, it's about honesty, it's about fairness, it's about justice. And once you start using your law to actually permit, in fact to insist, because the way it's worded, the registry will have no option, because it says they must describe the death as being a terminal illness, which is going to be untrue. Now, I do think that our legislators must think long and hard, over and above all the other arguments, of what can of worms are they opening for the Isle of Man if they start passing this sort of legislation. That's really, Andy, that's as far as what I want to say, but thanks for listening to me.
Okay, but just one final question.
Yeah, go on.
Do you think that this bill should be thrown out completely, or
Yes.
is there any form of compromise?
No, it should go out completely. It's a bad bill. It's bad on a lot of reasons. I had the privilege of actually speaking to certain members of the House of Keys, the same as people on the other side have spoken to them. I went through the bill. I went through it very, very in considerable depth, and I showed to them, I didn't use any moral arguments. I just used legal arguments because they've heard all the moral ones. And I showed them that there were numerous flaw lines in this legislation that I can't go into in a telephone call. And the bill's bad. It was bad in conception, and the way it's drafted, there are so many issues that people are totally unaware of, and it's just not. I was hoping we were going to have a debate on this on Manx Radio when I could have expanded further, because Mannin Line's not the place, really. There's not time. But that hasn't happened. So all I can do is, I'm afraid I have to come back to long-suffering Andy Wint, who has to hear this, because I've got no other means of making it known, and it needs to be made known.
Okay, I take it, will you be there tomorrow morning?
Oh, there may be somebody who looks like me there.
Okay. All right, thanks, Peter.
Okay, thanks then.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. 24 minutes past 12, and here's Dodsey now. Hi, Dodsey.
All right, Andy. Yeah, just to say, at the north end of the promenade, Douglas Promenade, where a lot of people are saying that it smells so bad, there's a lot of grey water and pollution around that area, because I was walking my dog up there a few days ago, and you can actually see in the rock pools, the water is grey. So there's a lot of sewage up there, and the smells could gag a maggot. It's that bad up there.
So where's that coming from? Because there was a sewage pipe, but I thought that was discontinued up there.
Well, if you look where the horse tram terrace is, or whatever that building's called, the one that they've got the scaffolding on, especially around that area, the seaweed and the sewage just rotten.
Right.
And it was said on one of your Facebook posts on Mike's Radio that Russell Howard and what's the other one, Ross Noble, was making a joke out of the island about it. Not very funny, is it? Especially when it all rings true onto the Isle of Man. I mean, he wants to come to the city's capital, and it smells like grey water. I'm not going to use it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it had absolutely stank at the weekend.
Yeah, well, I do believe I saw a tractor down there, and he was putting piles of seaweed and mountains of seaweed. Yeah. But what good is that going to do? We want to stick it on a dredger and take it out to sea.
Well, that's the guy. I mean, that's his fault. It's a heck of a job. It never stops. Every day he's there to drag down the seaweed, but also to kind of align the beach as well, to dig some trenches in the beach. But he's fighting a losing battle where that's concerned. And I think you're right. I do remember there are some storm drains at that end of the.
Everything's still being used.
Yeah, that's what it is. But let's hope it's cleaned up soon.
Douglas
anyway.
Council want to hear it, and they want to do something for the people of Douglas, and I'd say Douglas and Onken, and maybe the whole island, because it's a city. It's Douglas City, isn't it?
Well, it's the capital. I mean, and that's it. I mean, the elected representatives of Douglas City Council surely understand that they're not, that people do judge. People do, you smell somewhere, you judge the place by it. If it stinks, you think, what the heck's going on?
All right, man, I need to get going.
Thanks for calling today. Good to hear from you, Dodsey. Drive carefully. Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
Hiya. About the seaweed, Andy, unfortunately, people forget that you've got a load of way going out into Douglas Harbour. And Douglas Harbour is not now self-flushing as it used to be, because you've gone and extended the breakwater. So before, where the tide used to come in and come rushing in around Douglas Harbour, Douglas Headland, and out at the other way. It flushed everything away. Well, it's not happening now. It's just lying there.
So this is down to the Battery Pier, isn't it?
Yeah, and the whey is a horrible, horrible, smelly substance, and it sticks onto the seaweed, and then when it dries out, of course, you get the horrible smell. It even gets into your skin, whey does. It's a horrible, horrible piece of thing, but it's the whey from making cheese and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the pipe that comes from the creamery down Broadway, isn't it?
That's the one, yeah. And unfortunately, while that happens, you're going to have the same problem all the time. It's never going to go away. I mean, years ago, when I was a young man, which was a long time ago, the farmers used to come down and take the seaweed away because it was good manure, and they used to plough it into the fields. But now with the whey on it, it's toxic, so they don't want it. Nobody wants it.
Oh, it's toxic because of the whey?
Yeah, well, whey is toxic. I mean, if you go to most other countries, I know for the fact that Mallorca, when they make their cheese, they have to show that they can get shut of the whey by feeding it to the pigs and stuff like that. They're not allowed to put it into the water. Right. So, but I mean, whenever you see
the whey pipe active, you'll see gulls around there after the fish. So presumably the fish like the whey. Oh yeah. It's a feed. It is a feed. What you call it? They used to give it out over here to the pig farmers and stuff like that. But now it's easier to shove it out to sea. And unfortunately, the easy way is causing a lot of problems on the promenade. I mean, when you think of those people with them beautiful verandas on Queen's Promenade, I wonder, do they ever get used? Well, certainly not this weekend, anyway.
No. All right. And while we're on the subject, before you go away, the work permits. Yeah. If everything could be done as quick as a work permit can on this Isle of Man, we would be living in paradise. I mean, the man himself admitted that 90% of all work permits are done within 24 hours. That is magnificent when you think about it. So why do they want to relax it? Yeah, we should find out which department's doing work permits and put them in charge of other things. Definitely. But the thing is, what I can't understand is, why are they so determined to relax it? I mean, 90%. I don't think anything is done in the Isle of Man at 90% at the present time. They must have it. They should have all the plaudits from everybody. Okay. All right, Eddie. All the best, mate. Thanks for calling today. It's 12:30 on Manx Radio. Got to say hi to Angela Campbell, and congratulations to Angela Campbell, who has won the winning weekend. Angela won an overnight stay at the Ramsey Park Hotel in January, dinner and live entertainment as well. And this weekend, a winning weekend, this Saturday and Sunday. If you're involved at work, by the way, you win an emergency first aid at work course from St John Ambulance and a universal first aid kit. So that's an emergency first aid at work course. So follow Manx Radio on Facebook and Twitter and manxradio.com. And it's this coming weekend. And, Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Hey, Andy, how are you today?
Well, it's not as good as when you last called. It was lovely weather when you last called.
It was gorgeous, and Peel Fireworks display on Friday night. We had an excellent night for that. It was calm. It was a beautiful night, and everyone was enjoying the atmosphere.
How many were there?
It was pretty full. It was a very good atmosphere, and I think because it was a Friday night as well, people were hanging around afterwards and enjoying the night. So it was good for Peel. Good presentation by the commissioners, I thought. I think everyone enjoyed it. It was good. It's the seaweed. Just listen to the seaweed there. Get it washed and get it put onto the ground. Get it in the farmland. Get it washed. There's got to be some way of utilising that and washing it and cleaning it and utilising it. Must be.
Well, we try. Actually, I think we may be in the process of trying to find out whether our seaweed can actually be used for fertiliser. Because, as you say, it used to be used years ago. It was free fertiliser for the farmers. Whether or not it could be used now, nobody quite knows. But it will be. I mean, it's a resource and it's thrown up free of charge.
Absolutely, and along with other things that would make us more self-dependent, the seaweed, again, it was used for years, and we're all still alive and living, and there's got to be a way of cleaning it and washing it and using it, and another bit of self-sufficiency. I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping from Friday. Now, I don't, my name wasn't mentioned, but I think it was something that I brought up. It was a very emotive programme on Friday. But you had a chap came on later who was talking about people throwing bombs in the room, and I think I'd mentioned harvesting organs earlier on in the programme. And it was kind of an accusation of throwing bombs in the room. No, not really. And I just wanted to clarify that. On this subject, and again, like I said, Andy, it's an emotive subject. I've sat in hospice with close friends, and one in particular who was on morphine, end of life, was never going to recover. There's definitely some kind of need to help that type of person now who is at end of life and stop their suffering. But, and this is the big but, and the Isle of Man should be aware of this because they're late coming to the table along with the wind turbines, which gives them chance to look at what's going on in the rest of the world. And I think, as Julian has brought up quite rightly about Bill C7 in Canada, Canada now is number one in August harvesting. And it all correlates to the bill that they've put through. So saying that it couldn't happen, all I'm saying is it is happening in other places, and I'm not saying it's going to happen here. I'm just saying that this legislation will open up this type of stuff, as Peter has said. So
when you say that they're harvesting organs in Canada, can you be a bit more specific?
Well, if you're looking now, I think an average body now is worth about £1 million in parts, in body parts. So if people sign certain stuff away when, if they're at end of life or dying, if you want to be a blood donor or a kidney donor, and all I'm saying is, when you follow money trails, there tends to be a little bit of skullduggery possibly may go on. And I think it's just that people should be aware of the situations. And I think you said last week, that this should be read in a sober manner, which is quite right, because I think a lot of people who come on very emotively about things, they're very, very close to the subject in so much as they've had a person very close to them who has suffered and died. And I think sometimes you've got to get a radical view on what's going on, take 2 or 3 steps away so you can see the peripheral view of the situation in the whole. And I think that's what a lot of people are not doing. And it kind of bothers us when you look at Canada. And as we said before, if legislation goes through, it's the secondary legislation that can be thrown through very quickly afterwards, which could be the problem. Yeah. And that is always the problem. Once you've got primary legislation through, it's the secondary that follows, and that happens with a lot of things.
But regarding this, I mean, you say harvesting. I mean, organ donation happens all the time now, and often you have to opt out of organ donation. So, I mean, if somebody chooses to end their life, by this means, by the assisted dying means, and they want to donate their organs, they may have donated them anyway had they died a natural death, then that's hardly harvesting, is it?
No, and I agree with what you're saying there, and that's down to that particular person's choice, and that's fine. All I'm saying is there is a big market in this, and it's there. You can see the market is there, and when you've got that kind of money involved in one person, when it comes to parts, all I'm saying is there's got to be really, really tight legislation that controls this if this is going to happen, and that's the worrying part. We're living in a bit of a crazy world at the moment. Governments are following agendas which they shouldn't be following, and they're not really looking out for their own people per se. They're following agendas from far bigger people and far more powerful people, and that's the thing that concerns me of where this goes. And I think, and I'm not a religious person here, and I'm not going down the religious route or getting into a conversation about that, but a lot of religious views that were held by people over the years has kind of gone now, and I think that had to go to get to the stage that we're at. Someone said the other day about life being cheap. The changing of marital views, changing of people's sexuality, and all this here kind of stuff now is creeping in. And I think Peter said before about law. I think the basis of common law was do no harm to people, but now we've got judicial, constitutional, maritime. We've got all these laws in place now, which has kind of convoluted the whole discussion. So all I say to people is just be careful of what we wish for here. It is going to work for some people, but I think you've just got to be very careful on legislation.
Okay, all right, thanks, Joan.
Take care, Andy.
I got a message in from Callie. Is it Callie? Yes, Callie, who just said they've had 20 years of euthanasia in Holland, and there's no pushback against that legislation in Holland. And the story that the situation Juan's referring to, it's quite well known that it was the American Journal of Transplantation found that Canada, and this was December last year, there was a report published by the American Journal of Transplantation, found that Canada leads the world in harvesting organs from those who've received medical assistance in dying. They call it in Canada MAID, medical assistance in dying. Study found that in Canada, Belgium, the Netherlands and Spain, a total of 286 people who'd sought euthanasia, assisted dying, provided organs to save the lives of 837 people. And almost half of those donors, 136 of them, came from Canada. Patients who choose a medically assisted death due to suffering from cancer can't be organ donors due to the medications that they're taking. Usable donors were suffering from diseases like Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, or ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Well, as Juan says, it's a very different world that we're living in. And a message also in from, it is, let me see, Phil. Hi, Phil, who just said, if, as Dr. Allinson says, life assurance policies will pay out if somebody ends their life through assisted dying, does this mean, as Peter said, will a life policy on a mortgage, will that pay out? And also, will workplace things like death in service, will they still pay out? They sound like crass things we're talking about, but we are entering a new era. This assisted dying bill that Dr. Allinson is navigating through Tynwald, will change the Isle of Man. There's no doubt about it.
Here's an interesting question for you. What can be modern, classical, Persian, Chinese, Indian, plain or patterned, textured or even shaggy? Have you guessed yet? No? Okay, the answer's simple. They're all types of rug, and they can all be viewed in our new rug gallery at Lifestyle Furniture. Pop into our 2-story showroom where you can see and touch the biggest range of quality rugs on the island. Lifestyle Furniture. It's everything your home's been waiting for. See our website for details.
70 million workdays lost. A cost of up to £99 billion to the UK economy. Can your business afford to ignore mental health? St John Ambulance have partnered with Mental Health First Aid England in a bid to transform workplace mental health and support staff. We are offering adult mental health first aid training courses to encourage early intervention, helping you recognise the signs and symptoms and guide a person to the right support. Call St John Ambulance on 674 387 today.
For your new bathroom, head to Pacesetter, Harris Terrace, Douglas or Spring Valley. In Pacesetter's fully fitted showroom, you'll find the latest bathroom products and designs, from new contemporary styles to traditional Victorian tiles, wall and ceiling panels, accessories and much more. With many ranges exclusive to Pacesetters, plus professional design advice from the experts, visit Pacesetter, Harris Terrace, Douglas or Spring Valley.
You can get the best of everything, where the price is twice as nice.
Everyone's more conscious of energy usage nowadays, so Manx Utilities has begun installing smart meters for standard domestic customers island-wide. With our Smart Living app available too, you'll be in control of tracking and managing your energy. No need to contact us, we'll be in touch when we're ready to fit your smart meter. Visit the Smarter Living page at manxutilities.im. Manx Utilities, delivering a smarter future.
Assisted dying. It's an emotive topic that's garnered huge public interest in recent months.
It is a difficult discussion because it is very personal and it's not for everyone.
It's my body, it's my choice, it's my death, it's my decision.
I think it would be very difficult to convince doctors that this will be part of what they do.
As MHKs meet for the second reading of the Assisted Dying Bill, Manx Radio will bring you the debate in full. Join us on our AM 1368 frequency, on DAB, online, smartphone app or smart devices for full coverage of the House of Keys sitting from 10 a.m. tomorrow.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
It's 18 minutes before 1. Here's Betty. Hi, Betty.
Hi, Andy. I hope you're keeping well.
Very well, thank you, yes.
Good. I just wanted to say that I'll be surprised and pleased if the bill goes through, but there are so many groups standing against it that I doubt it will. But I also wanted to tell you, as a nurse, I've seen lots of people dying and in pain, and in a lot of cases they could have not had that suffering if they'd been allowed assisted dying sooner than they actually died. That's one thing. And also, when I saw my husband, who had esophageal cancer, dying, and when he cried out, "I want to die," that should have been allowed too sooner, and he wouldn't have had to suffer. Even though he had lots of morphine and things given to him, it still didn't stop the pain. So I'm all for the bill, and I can't understand. Well, I know a lot of it is religious, and the rest of it is because some people are afraid, and some people think that relatives will force other people to accept assisted dying. But I also want to tell you about, I have mentioned this before, my daughter in Canada says it isn't nearly as bad as what people are saying over here. It seems to go quite smoothly, and there haven't been objections or to a greater extent, although some people are still objecting. It just isn't half the story that they're telling over here about.
Well, as I mentioned, it's been happening in Holland for 20 years. The European Centre for Dignitas is in Basel, in Switzerland, and it's not really a topic of conversation on Swiss streets either. So you think this wouldn't? It would be a. I'm not saying a fuss about nothing, but you think, if it happens here, that it won't be, very contentious.
Well, I think there are always people who will object, particularly people who have religious objections. They will never stop objecting. But why can't the rest of us be allowed to have assisted dying if we want it? I really can't understand that, and I think it's a sort of selfishness to prevent. And I have heard, I don't know if it's true, that over 70% of people on the island do want assisted dying to happen.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. So you think, on a scale of 1 to 10 then, i.e. 10 it will go through and 0 it'll be thrown out. What do you think the chances are? What between 1 and 10?
I think it'll be thrown out. I think probably about 3 it will be thrown out.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Betty.
Okay, thank you.
Good to hear from you. Look at that time. It's 14 minutes before 1. And Roger with us now. Hi, Roger.
Hello, Andy. Just want to follow up on what Peter was saying about unintended consequences of the bill. And he implied, or he did say, that he's read the bill carefully, and I've no doubt about that, because I do respect what Peter has to say. But it is a very short bill, and it is the content of it is encapsulated in the schedule at the end of the bill. Now, the schedule is part of the legislation that will be going forward. And I'd just like to read it to you, if I may.
By all means, yeah.
It's only very short, and it's the form that the person who wants an assisted death will sign. Number 1, I have a terminal illness from which I am expected to die within 6 months of the date of this declaration. The attending doctor, this is number 2, the attending doctor and independent doctor identified below have each fully informed me about that diagnosis and prognosis and the treatment available to me, including pain control and palliative care. 3, having considered all this information, I have a clear and settled intention to end my own life. And in order to assist me to do so, I have asked my attending doctor to prescribe medicine for me for that purpose. 4, I make this declaration voluntarily and in the full knowledge of its significance. 5, I understand that I may revoke this declaration at any time. So that's what the declarant must say, and that's then countersigned by the attending doctor and an independent doctor. Now that schedule encapsulates what the legislation is about. And when Peter goes on about insurance, he's forgetting the compassionate nature of this legislation. And that's what we must always think about, is the person who is suffering, who has a terminal illness and has his death or her death in sight within 6 or 12 months. Please consider that.
OK, I appreciate that, Roger. Thanks for calling. It's 12 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio. Here's a message in from Richard, who just said, your caller on Friday, David, was spot on with what he was saying about assisted dying and the misinformation. Scaremongering. So Richard's words, scaremongering given out. Those who are against the bill should hang their heads in shame. Well, Richard's words, it literally has no impact on them, even if we went down the same route of Canada, which I agree with, by the way, still has no effect on them, but it would have a massive impact on those with terminal illnesses who want to end their suffering. And Sue, you remember Sue called on Friday and talked about her husband Simon. Sue quite rightly said at some point painkillers can stop working. Any MHK who votes against this would never get my vote again, said Richard.
Ocean Views is the perfect venue for your Christmas party. Whether small groups of family and friends or corporate bookings, Ocean Views can cater for parties of up to 120 people. With excellent choices on food, from a delicious 1, 2 or 3-course Christmas feast available from the 28th of November to your favourite non-festive dishes from the chef's seasonal menu, with free parking and wheelchair access. See the menus and book now for Christmas. Find Ocean Views on Facebook or at oceanviews.im.
Mike has got the conister feeling. Because despite his busy life, getting the finance to sort some home improvements was quicker and easier than he ever dreamt with Conister Bank.
You got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, got me feeling good, yeah!
Ooh, and not even Conister can help improve his singing. Apply online today at conisterbank.co.im and you'll get the Conister feeling too. All loans are subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Early settlement fees apply.
Walk through the northern lights into a land of ice and snow at Ramsey Garden Centre. Indoor and outdoor lights, a magical range of real and artificial trees, decorations, gifts and much more. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, Albert Road.
Let's celebrate with a bang. Douglas Fireworks Display will be bigger and better than ever. Join us on the promenade from 6 p.m. with the Best Guy competition at 6:30 and the incredible display from 7 p.m. Choreographed music and broadcast live on Manx Radio on DAB and FM. Douglas Fireworks, Friday, November 3rd. Brought to you by Douglas City Council. Sponsored by Selton Manx and supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
And this weekend, you can win an emergency first aid at work course plus a universal first aid kit from St John Ambulance. For training courses, room hire, or to find out how you can get involved, visit sja.org.im.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win. You can enter as many times as you like.
Then make sure you join us on Monday morning for Manx Radio Breakfast when we'll announce the winner.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
8 minutes before 1, got a message in from Bob who just said, we're a small business on the Isle of Man. We sell online, we get supplies from the UK. We use special delivery. And since the special deliveries have been going on the boat, the service is now supposed to be a second-day service rather than a next-day service. Not a single package we have sent via this service has arrived on the second day. These packages are taking up to 4 days to arrive. And they used to be next day. We look stupid. Hopefully our customers won't go elsewhere. With regards to supplies being sent to us via special delivery, not a single package has arrived on the second day. Again, these are taking 4 days to arrive. We've gone from being able to order supplies, making produce, and having it delivered within a 2-day turnaround. It's now 8 days. Additionally, the Isle of Man Post Office were bringing in a slightly lower cost option of Tract 48. This service cost double the price of Tract 48 from Royal Mail across. The service was supposed to go live when the mail plane stopped. That was the 16th, I believe. The service is still not available after 10 days. With regards to the Isle of Man being a place where you can do business, this is possibly true for a digital business, but definitely not true, not somewhere to come if you have a physical business. And don't even get me started on the restrictions regarding funding and payment providers for e-commerce. Almost everyone turns their back as soon as you say Isle of Man. Every day is a battle, and I am seriously starting to wonder why I bother. That's one small business struggling to use the postal service. Thank you, Bob. Certainly something that I'm happy to put out there. And if you have a service that relies on a physical postal service and you are going now from, as Bob said, a 2-day service to an 8-day turnaround, as what used to be 1 day, supposed to be 2 days, now taking 4 days both ways, then where do you stand? What do you do? How are you coping? What do you say to your customers? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. And also regarding the work permit, says Helen, not only should work permit situation be clarified, but also let's look at enabling younger teenagers to work. So many teens are keen to work but can't. I was able to work from the age of 13. It helped me mature, give me an earlier understanding of what I wanted to do in the future. Having earned my own money so young was a great feeling. Give young teens work opportunities, says Helen. I think, is it 16 at the moment that teenagers can start to work? It was a lot earlier, years and years ago, when you were fetching downwards pop bottles, but that was another time. What do you think about that? Teenagers being able to work younger. The smell is probably the way. That sour smell infused with seaweed, says John. Is it really? Thanks also to Paul, who just said, when did a pint turn into less than a pint? 68 millilitres. Is it 68 millilitres, 68 cc's? Really? Is it? Thank you, Paul. Send us a photo if you can. You can WhatsApp a photo quite easily on 166 177. And a note in, am I allowed to inform Ramsey residents about the recent notice from the local papers, Ramsey Town Commissioners, about overgrown hedges onto over public pathways from private properties? Apparently the town warden was out yesterday, Sunday, cycling along pavements, which is against the law, taking photos of offending properties. Double time on a Sunday, says Francis. Thank you. And better still if the commissioners got their own house in order and cleaned up Ramsey first. Is that true? That they're going to be issuing notices about overhanging hedges. Thanks also. And Here's an idea. Instead of wanting to build a new seawall at a cost of £1 million, definitely a cheaper alternative, and that will be to bag the sand and stone from the front of the existing seawall. It used to, as it used to be back in the late 80s, down to a depth of 10 feet below, says Fred. Certainly along Douglas Promenade, the steps that used to go down went 10, 12, even lower, surely. Now you're walking straight onto the beach. Andrew said Chris Thomas was clearly worried about the government not fulfilling their duties around due diligence. I think this was the Kroger situation. And you can hear that again on Catch Up and as a podcast. Phil Gorn's Perspective programme yesterday. He's on tonight with Agenda after 6. Remember this coming Wednesday, 1st of November, Teresa Cope, Chief Exec of Manx Care, is on. Apparently they want to improve their the way everything is conducted regarding staff, the culture within Manx Care. You got any thoughts? Oh, thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today.
WINT